Hey guys, welcome back to your Heroclix headquarters. I'm Lucas, and joining me today again is my friend Spencer here.
Hi, I'm Spencer. Won a couple tournaments, placed high in some qualifiers and things, some states in the past year. So been trying to keep up with the meta. So.
And once again, if you didn't watch our last video, I'm a local judge, so I do know some rules and stuff. Today we're here to talk about the current meta of Heroclix. The biggest thing right now is the Black Widow movie chase. She's tearing it up.
Absolutely, yeah. She just does so much for her points, and I think that's something that we kind of wanted to break down today in our video, was just what she does and why she's so good for her point value, and then kind of what is going alongside her right now, that we're seeing a lot of.
Yeah, one of those things, of course, is Captain Marvel, and I'm gonna slap a card up on screen for you guys to check it out. The two of them, really, you gotta use two Captain Marvels pretty much, and a Black Widow, and then you got some filler stuff.
Yeah, filler stuff is usually a symbiote. Black Widow is hard enough to kill, given her shape change, it makes her even better. A lot of times, people will play the Iron Man map bonus, the one from Earth X, just to get, if they do lose map, they've only got +3, so losing map and getting that Scarlet
gives you prob.
that gives you prob is a big deal.
Yeah, it's good.
So just filling out points with objects and things of that nature.
Yeah, but the main strategy of that team is you're going to use your Captain Marvel to carry your Black Widow, pretty much 10 squares, because she's got 10 movement, -1 for the carry, but she's got +1 from the Avengers team ability, so it's going to get you a 10 square carry, and then you've got, don't forget, she can place her square adjacent in front of her, so that's 11 squares, and then all of Black Widow's cool powers have a 6 square range, so we're talking about a 17 square reach.
Yeah. 17 is your magic number here, as we're going to talk about probably a little bit later in the video. That's where we start to see kind of her effective range on shutting your characters down. Probably, I would argue, our biggest feature is just being able to say, hey, this guy that makes your team function no longer can use a lot of his abilities.
Basically do anything at all.
Yeah. So, that's the biggest part is within a 17 square reach, basically.
And besides just what she does is shutting down all the powers that aren't actual colored squares on the dial. So anything like Indomitable, any team ability powers, shutting down everything. And one thing that I forgot about before just rereading it before this video was she also shuts off positive modifiers. So, I mean, you can't even perplex up your defense or have any type of combat reflexes or any energy shield deflection.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And so, just jumping right into, kind of breaking down Black Widow, we start out with that trait, which also gives her stealth, which is very important. And then the ability to free action, remove a tradecraft token. They can't use powers or abilities that are not a colored power on their dial, and they can't positively increase their combat values. And that is with a 6 square reach, as we mentioned before.
Yeah. That's really brutal to any figure, really.
Yeah.
And then when you combo that with the fact that she can also remove a tradecraft token to generate one of the Widow's recruits or initiates just for free, and then they can poison you after being carried and placed. It's pretty nuts.
And they will get to choose one character to deal penetrating poison to, potentially also.
Yeah. So
a penetrating poison after coming up that far, and it's important to note also, at this time she can remove 2 tradecraft tokens in a turn. A lot of people that have been talking about Black Widow and her utility think that, this could be a way to reduce her power a little bit in an errata, but make her still very playable, was to only do 1 of these, but at this time she is able to actually take both free actions in the same turn. And that's actually located as a special damage power on our first 2 clicks, I believe.
Yeah, and that also gives her leadership and outwit. So you're also, in addition to shutting everything down, you're also getting an outwit that sees through hindering because she has the Avengers Initiative team ability. So once you get a character down to their basic colored powers, she can then outwit something on top of that. And then, you have putting down a Widow's Recruit to poison them. It's just crazy. And that's not even talking about the Captain Marvel that you have next to her.
Yeah. And the outwit, too, a lot of times, if they can shut down your main attacker, if a secondary attacker has something like charge or running shot, they can take that out from under you, too, and really neutralize your ability to attack at all on your next turn. If they can't tie you up with the Widow's Recruit, of course. But then she does have one other trait that we would want to mention. So she also says that your friendly character's rolls of 10 or more can't be re-rolled, and opposing characters' rolls of 4 or lower can't be re-rolled.
Yeah, so that is also... that's one of those things I feel like it's hard to remember, but it's very important. Because if you crit hit or your opponent crit misses, it can't be re-rolled. Or if they just roll low, like a 3 or whatever, it can't be re-rolled. No prob. So that almost shuts down a lot of the usefulness of prob anyway.
Right. And as somebody that likes to play Thanos a lot, a lot of times I play, more powerful Power Gem style Thanos, where I'm looking at, 14 attacks. And so a lot of times, even if I only need a 5 to hit, when I do roll that 3, now I all of a sudden can't re-roll it. So in addition to having, whatever other abilities, countered, my Power Gem wouldn't work in the first place and things of that nature. But just even if you only needed like a 5, not being able to get there with one prob is brutal.
It is. So that's a lot that she does on her own. And then she's going to be paired with at least 1 or 2 Captain Marvels on her 95-point line.
Yeah, and I think Captain Marvel is not in the same territory as Black Widow. She's not overpowered. She is 95 points. I think she's costed appropriately. She's just super good for those 95 points. She is every point's worth. With 2 stop clicks, she has a lot of survivability, probability control, and the ability to, after she moves all that way, drop out the Flurkin, and Flurry Blades is huge.
Yeah, that's a lot of free damage, and then that also gets you a Perplex from the Flurkin. So, imagine if you carry all that way. If you move your team out of spawn just a few squares, you get this person coming all the way across the board. They drop Black Widow, shuts down everything. They drop a Flurkin. That Flurkin can attack with Flurry Blades, with a Perplex. You got Prob from Captain Marvel. You've got Outwit from Widow. And then the Widow can drop the Recruit and poison you and attack as well from at least 10 squares away.
Yeah, it's brutal. Like you said, if you come out of your starting area...
welcome to die.
It's a lot of attacks after carry.
Yeah.
Potentially, 5 attacks when you're looking at 2 flurries, and then the Widow's Recruit if you move out far enough. So, and another important thing I wanted to note, a lot of people kind of question or wonder when they watch this played about when and when not Captain Marvel is appropriately using her ping damage. So for those of you that don't know, Captain Marvel has the ability to use hypersonic speed. When she uses it, she can move through characters, and when she does so, she can deal them 1 penetrating damage after actions resolve. It's important to note here that hypersonic speed does reduce your passengers to 0. So she would not be able to carry someone like Black Widow and then also deal you a ping damage at the same time.
Or make the attack, right?
Or make an attack, right.
So, that's nice.
Right. It's
fair.
almost like not, kicking somebody when they're down.
Right. You don't need all that on one turn.
Right. But the one that didn't carry definitely can if they have the reach. Hypersonic up and ping you.
Yeah, or just shoot you even if they can't quite make it to you.
Right.
Or even drop another Flurkin in your face.
Right.
Too.
Right.
So, yeah.
So it's brutal. And then the last power we want to talk about on Black Widow is something that just makes her really hard to kill. And she does have a stop click on her last click. And then she will, the first time she reaches it, she will heal equal to the number of remaining tradecraft tokens she has on her dial, which she starts with 5.
So that's really the best way to counter her is just smack her straight to her stop click.
Right. And so, as we kind of approach ideas on how to counter her, we've talked so much about these two specific powers, the trait and the damage power, that do so much and make her such a utility. If you can remove those tradecraft tokens, it's your first step in being able to beat a Black Widow team.
Yeah. Your best chance, really, is you have to get rid of those tradecraft tokens altogether.
And so to do that, I talked earlier about this 17 being the magic number. I think you're going to want to be able to outrange her to get to her before she can use those tokens at all. And so the key is going to be getting in a position to where you can have her hit to the stop and heal back up before she gets the first use of them off.
Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully, right. And so I think this is kind of where we talked about a power specifically that could potentially do this is mind control. Because of the nature of the game and the way so many pieces don't have improved targeting, especially for characters, and the ability to move up and body block or hide behind walls, and she's got stealth, so if you don't see through hindering, it becomes even harder to target Black Widow herself. So I've been thinking a lot about trying to target the Marvels so in a way that we can disrupt their positioning, which in the meta is such a big proponent of everything you do. Your positioning must be perfect.
Yeah,
I mean, if to win any kind of big tournament, you're going to have to position every square perfectly. And so anytime that your opponent can disrupt that can change the pace of the game. We've got a couple options for mind control that we wanted to discuss. Some of the better options. For 5 points, you can always take mind control into your build using the Liar Ring. And so this guy actually is unique in a way that when we're talking about mind control and talking also in the same breath about outranging someone, a 10 square mind control is a huge deal.
Yeah.
So being able to use only 5 points of your build, gain the mind control you've been looking for, and have it at range 10 is it gets us well on our way to getting to that 18, 19 reach we're going to need to outrange the Widows and Marvels. So before we really get into our core pieces that we really wanted to talk about, I did want to give a couple honorable mentions for the mind control. Gorilla Grodd at this point, at 10 points, is another super cheap, easy piece that you can tech into your build. When you can, move 4 squares and then have a 4 square reach, that's 8 on top of a TK, which we'll get to some specific TKs here in a little bit. It gets you on your way for only 10 points. And with a keyword we're going to talk about a little bit later, it just adds to theme at being only 10 points, which is going to be another really important piece of the puzzle. And then finally, Jason Wyngarde has seen a lot of play before Black Widow emerged.
Yeah, he was the biggest thing.
He was huge, right?
Yeah.
And so, unfortunately, if Black Widow gets to him first, he is almost null and void at this point. Not being able to use mind control at all, and just not really being able to do what he needs to do. However, if you can get your Jason Wyngarde on the right team and get him into a position to where he can mind control those Marvels first, there is the potential there to kind of pull off this trick we're talking about today in trying to get rid of those tradecraft tokens early on. There's 2 pieces I really wanted to talk about today, and of course they're DC. I have to love that. And specifically, it is going to be Mr. Oz from Rebirth and the new Ultra Humanite from JLU. And so these guys provide 2 very important things when we're talking about trying to be a Widow team. Mr. Oz has the ability to actually TK 8 squares. He, for those of you that don't know, TK's minimum range is 6. So you move them 6, and then he has the ability to place them 2 more squares within line of fire.
Yeah, and that's pretty big. That's what TK used to be.
Right.
They nerfed it.
Right. And so when you're talking about needing to reach a number of 18 or 19, being able to do 8 and get, almost halfway there with one action is very big. And so not to mention, if you're going to move a character out super far and you've got this one chance to get off these mind controls and try and knock Black Widow down, a probability control is huge. And with a 12 range prob that sees through everything except hindering, it's going to be a really good chance that you're going to be able to re-roll what you need to re-roll.
It is.
Unless, of course, you roll a 4 or below, which
then
at that point it's rough, right?
I will mention, he does see through hindering just because he got the Superman team ability.
Boom.
So
don't forget your team abilities.
Don't forget your team ability.
That's huge. Hyper time, right?
Yeah.
How many times?
I pulled that off a lot.
How many times has somebody tried to base him and he's just like, nope.
Yeah, I got some luck with the hyper time rules.
So then the star of what I wanted to talk about is really this 50 point or 25 point Ultra Humanite. And when we're talking about mind control, he has a special movement power that gives him sidestep and mind control with a range value of 8 that sees through hindering, elevated, and blocking and characters. So you can put him behind any kind of cover you need. You can hide him wherever you need, and he's still going to be able to try and mind control those Marvels. Which is huge.
Yeah.
So an important thing we wanted to mention when we're talking about mind control and in regards to Black Widow and 2 Captain Marvels is in order to reach that threshold of the stop click to remove all 5 tradecraft tokens, you're going to need to hit both Captain Marvels at some point during the turn, and they're both going to have to hit Black Widow. You'll need all 6 of their damage to get through to her last click. And that's so important. And I think this comes to another important rules note, and that is if they have not used their probability control at the time that you mind control them, you then have access to that probability control. So you can essentially take away the Captain Marvel's probability control if you can mind control them from far enough away or without line of fire. And trying to build on top of this becomes a matter of, you have options like giving him an extra bolt. So he could try and do both Marvels at the same time. Having multiples of them at only 25 points is huge. Now, you are probably going to want to be packing some Perplex, which you probably want to be packing on any team.
Yeah.
But he does only have a 10 attack. So that is an obstacle that you're going to try and have to overcome. Another important thing is he can also potentially stall up your Widows and Marvels. If you're running a lot of these guys, they have the Injustice League trait, which for those of you that don't know, you can roll a d6 at the beginning of your turn, and on the result of a 6, you can give an action token to an opposing character of 100 points or less anywhere on the map. And so all these characters are 100 points or less, and so being able to give them a second token after they move up could be very, very big.
It definitely slow them down a lot.
Yeah. For sure. And so I know at this point you guys are probably thinking there's a lot of ways around what we've been talking about. There's ways to shut off your Ultra Humanite, shut off your Mr. Oz, or if you did have an attacker that wanted to get in there, to shut them off too. And so I think there's 2 really important components to using what we have been talking about today in trying to defeat Black Widow and Captain Marvel. And the first one is that you have to be able to hit that 18 or 19 range. We've talked about it, throughout the whole video, but just again, being able to get to them before they get to you is huge.
Yeah.
Which leads me to my next point is you want to go first. You want to strike first and be able to get to her, and that means you probably want to win map.
Yeah, definitely want to try. Always helpful to win the map.
Right, and so these 2 pieces in particular that we have today are low point, and they do share a keyword, which is scientist. Scientist has gotten a lot of options lately on what it can pack. Low point perplexes, like things like Wesley Crusher, really great attackers that have some survivability, like this new PlayStation 4 Spider-Man.
Even the Iron Spider is a good one.
Right.
The Hulk from that set too is pretty good too.
Right.
He's got scientists.
And giving things mobility, like being able to move your Mr. Oz. I believe Dr. Clara Finn gets you a Yaphet where you can do some sidestepping, so you can sidestep in and out of the way to move your guys around. So there's a lot of good scientist options. And then, again, we mentioned Gorilla Grodd earlier. Ultra Humanite does have that Injustice League keyword if you wanted to try and go that direction and be able to, kind of craft some kind of large theme with an Injustice League team.
Yeah, Injustice League and Scientists, both really good right now for just getting big theme teams.
Right.
Help you win map. And then I was also going to mention the Star Labs Scientist, another good one for like scientist themes. 15 points. You roll a die, you can get any support power based on what you roll. If you have multiples of them, you have more chances of getting the Perplex or the Prob you might need. So that's another good filler piece to help you get some map roll bonuses.
Yep. And so I did, we talked about the importance of map, and I think it's important in so many matchups, but particularly this one. And depending on, what you're going with, if you want to move around with, the Liar Ring, which I've looked at tossing on some people, or, Gorilla Grodd, or anyone else with mind control, you may want an open map, where that you can get in position and just simply outrange them, which is really important. But I think in the right team, and specifically with something like Ultra Humanite, a map with a lot of blocking could be your friend, just like this here, Ancient Hold, which is a super map, very oppressive, some would say. If it can ruin your day, for sure. And I think that it definitely becomes a little bit of a challenge because positioning becomes much more important for the Black Widow and the Marvels.
And much more difficult to get where you need to be and to place things where you need them. And then if you can just mind control them through the wall, there's nothing they can really do about it.
Right. When you talk about placing things like Chewie and the Widow's Recruit adjacent, the doors, especially if you're trying to make close attacks and you can't make close attacks through them, and the squares on the other side aren't adjacent, sometimes to get the range you need, you're going to have to butt up against one, and then it becomes hard to function on the other side of the door. So map can really change your day. And if you are functioning with something like Ultra Humanite, one other thing I wanted to mention was the Zero Ring. So this guy gives you access to barrier. As I've been looking at Injustice League teams, I've noticed there is actually no Injustice League pieces that have the barrier power. And so this 5 points could be a very important piece to try and protect as much as you can. And it's a free 1 square, so if you can pop it in front and block a line of fire to Black Widow and keep her from shutting you down, it could be really big.
Yeah, for sure. 1 square doesn't seem like a lot sometimes, but it can be the difference.
Yes, can definitely be the difference between a good line of fire and a bad one, which could mean the difference in you having your powers or not.
Or winning or losing, basically.
Right.
So that's about it for now. It's about all we wanted to talk about. I hope you guys learned a thing or two. Hopefully, even if you don't use this specific strategy, maybe you can come up with something on your own, because knowing the enemy is always the best step in knowing how to defeat the enemy. And really, Black Widow's going to keep tearing it up.
Right. She's definitely not going to go away.
Yeah.
And I think just to mention, I think a lot of times when you're consuming Heroclix content, I know myself, even if I'm not directly going with whatever was recommended or whatever was in the video, the build specifically, if it just gets the juices flowing and it gives you some sort of idea to play off of, I think it was worth your time.
Yeah, that's really the point. We want to help you get to that point where if you see that Black Widow on the other side of the table, you have some idea of what you're going up against and how to stop it and how to prepare for it.
Yep.
So I hope you guys like this video. If you do, make sure you hit that like button for me. It really helps us. And if this video gets, let's say, 30 likes, maybe we can do one every other week, because let me know you guys really like it and I can do some more of these for you. And then don't forget to click that subscribe button so you never miss any of our videos. And until next time, this has been Heroclix Headquarters, signing off.
See you guys.